Hi again, my name is Christopher Clark. I'm supposed to demonstrate exactly how to make a Damascus steel blade. A Damascus steel blade looks like this. It's a blade that has a bunch of different types of grooves and looking in it once it's done. And all that is every single layer of metal throughout the blade. I can't really physically show you how to make one because I don't have the space to do it, and it could take up to a week for me to make one. And it's been about 2 years since I made one because I don't have the time to do it with work. But I can tell you exactly how the process goes. But to start out, originally Damascus steel started in the city of Damascus, which is located in Syria. It was first seen on the battlefields during the medieval times. It's a very strong, sharp blade, and it's a very beautiful blade. And it took all the way up to the 19th century for them to figure out how they made it. And today it's made, you can make it completely different ways. It all depends on your own preference. The materials you would need to make a Damascus blade, it all depends on your own preference also. Like Damascus steel, you can take scrap metal, like scrap steel, cut it into pieces, like evenly sized pieces, weld them together, and then I use a shop press to flatten my steel out. Or you can use like some old screwdrivers, cut the ends off, line them up, weld them together. You can also take like this steel tubing I have here, cut it and make it into a steel box, and line the inside of the steel box with either a old bicycle chain or a bunch of steel nails, screws, whatever you want to use, whatever you have scrap metal. You can even use good stuff. It's more cost efficient to use old scraps, stuff that's never going to be used again. But what you would do is you take whatever material you're planning on using, weld it all together, and then use the shop press to flatten it out. I have to use a shop press because I don't have the strength in my hands anymore due to my time in the Army. So I have to use a shop press to press everything down together. But what you do is, to make the layers in the blade, what it is just a bunch of different pieces of steel lined up together. You weld it together, you press it, depending on however many layers of steel you want. It all depends on you. Like, say I cut this down, weld about 5 or 6 pieces of steel together. That would be a 6-layered blade once it's flattened out. The average Damascus steel blade is anywhere from 150 to about 350 layers. I've seen someone make a 1,000-layer blade, but that takes a lot of time, because it takes a lot of time to get all this flattened out. And most people that are doing them, that's not their normal job. So to get the layers, you have 6. Say you start with 6 pieces of steel. Once you get those flattened out, you cut them into 3 equal sized pieces again, and again re-weld them together, and you keep doing that process over and over until you get to the amount of layers you want. Every time you cut and re-weld, whatever your previous number of layers you had before, you multiply it by however many pieces of steel you cut into different pieces. Like me, what I do is I will flatten it out, however many pieces I have. A lot of times I will use scrap, old steel, like tubing, because I do a lot of welding on making frames for trailers. So I'll take that steel, weld it together, flatten it out, and usually it's about 3 or 4 pieces I weld together, flatten them out. So once I flatten them out and then I cut them up into 3 equal pieces, those 3 layers will turn into 9 layers. And then so on and so forth, however many times you want to do it. It's a long process to make Damascus steel. It's very time consuming. You have to have patience to do it. Once you get everything, all the layers you want, you get it all flattened out, and then you shape the steel into the blade you want, the way you want your blade to look. You can either do that by cutting the steel with a cutting wheel, or you can shape it with a hammer. Like I said, I can't do it because of my hands. But once you get it down to the shape you want it, then you just start sanding it. Sand down the shape of the blade to the edges sharp, like you really want it to. Damascus steel usually is extremely sharp. Most Damascus steel, if you make it correctly, it can slice through bone easy without really any hesitation. Once you get it down to the shape that you want it, what you do is you put it back in your metal forge, heat it up to harden the steel. You heat it up till it's like glowing red, and what I use is I drop it into a tube that's full of old motor oil. Once you drop it in there and it cools down, then you throw it in about an oven at about 400 degrees for about 4 hours. Once you do all that, that blade should be strong enough where it won't break. It'll be very hard to chip the blade. It'll be very hard to dull the blade. But that's not the end of the process. Once you do all that and you sand everything back down to where it looks nice and shiny, what you want to do is take your blade and put it in a mixture of ferric chloride, vinegar, and water. You let it sit in there for about 3-4 hours. Pull it out and then slightly use a scrub brush to scrub off the excess chemical on top of it. And in the end process, you'll have a blade that looks like this. You'll see every single layer in that blade, and it will look like a gorgeous blade. And if you make it correctly, you can make a kitchen knife to last you forever. I've seen people restoring old Damascus steel knives, and it was like a 1,000-year-old blade. I've seen him restore to a beautiful kitchen knife, and it's still sliced and was still strong from the day it was made. But it all depends on your own preference on how to make them. The old process was made from little steel cakes that they would forge weld them together, which forge welding is you take multiple different layers of steel, and instead of like actually using a welder like we have today, they will put all 3 layers together and pound them together until they're one solid piece of steel. But like today, it's a lot easier. to make it. We have a lot more resources, we have a lot more tools. But that's really it on how to make one. I really wish I was able to really demonstrate on how to make one, or have a blade here to show you. But like I said, I haven't made a blade in about 2 years, so I don't usually, when I make them, I'm not making them for myself. I make them for friends or someone that offers to pay for one. So I don't have any of my own, and I didn't have the resources to buy one to show you. But yep, that's about it. And I hope you. I know it's not a very much information to get into a small video, but hopefully I did my best and show you how it's done. Thank you.